Viola Davis, congratulations on the second season of How to Get Away with Murder that aired this year. A lot of new developments this season, including Famke Janssen as a colleague and former lover of your character, Annalise Keating. And it was great how matter-of-fact that was. It wasn't really, didn't really seem like the headline was that these two women had a relationship. What did you think of that storyline when you first found out about it?
Well, of course, it terrified me on one hand, but on the other hand, I found it very exciting. It was another layer to Annalise's character. And it's my theory, just me as Viola, that sexuality is one thing that you can't gauge on an individual. I mean, you probably can in some instances, but I just think that every human being comes with a mystery, and sexuality is one of them. And certainly we know with Annalise, her whole past is a mystery. She is definitely a woman that you cannot put your finger on. So it seemed to make sense that then there would be some person in her past that she, was intimate with, that maybe got away, or maybe hurt her, or maybe she hurt her. It just seemed to make sense to me with Annalise.
And in season two, so much of it was about sort of uncovering the past, especially Annalise's past. Not only Famke Janssen's character, but Annalise's history with Wes, and we got more details about her family life. What was it like getting to know her better this season? Was there anything surprising?
Well, Famke was surprising. But none of the other stuff, because me and, of course, Pete Nowalk, we discuss it repeatedly. Because, when I signed on, I just didn't want to be this kind of one-dimensional, cartoony, sexy, mysterious woman that you always see on TV. And she always has to be one way. I wanted to somehow, as much as I can, make her three-dimensional. Make there be a reason why she's mysterious, a reason why she's repressed. And so then everything that Pete has explored in this past season with her, with the loss of a baby, with her family being dysfunctional like many of our families are, with Wes's past, it seemed to make sense in terms of how Annalise has so absolutely passionately shut down and has kind of remained enigmatic, hard. All of those things seem to kind of make sense to me, and it gave her another layer.
Yeah, and with all those things that are past, making her, having sort of toughened her the way it has. Do you see like a lot of these revelations now that they've come out? Do you see not necessarily her becoming, soft and just like nice Annalise, but
Yeah.
a little bit more open and at least more open to people?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think that's the way human behavior works. I think that's the way we want human behavior to be on television, and that's probably the hardest part about television for me, is kind of making the character Mr. Potato Head of the audience's needs, as opposed to creating a character that is really based on human pathology. And human pathology is, there is power in vulnerability. I mean, we are essentially at our core people who are motivated by hiding and masking because we fear shame. We fear disappointment. We fear death. A lot of people don't want to be vulnerable because they literally will feel like they're going to, melt like the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz. That's human behavior. That's the kind of acting that makes me lean in. And I found, since I've been on TV, that a lot of times people they have such a need to like you. And especially when you're a woman, I don't think that they have the same need for, I don't know, James Gandolfini in The Sopranos, or I don't know, Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. There is an understanding that when you come to the plate, when it's a man, that what you are agreeing to is to go along for the ride, and you're going along with their complexity. And you're going to accept whatever they give you as long as it's a great ride. And that's what I'm doing, essentially, as Annalise.
And all the characters on this show, not just Annalise, they've been to sort of the dark side of certain certainly human behavior. I think literally everyone on the show has gotten away with murder in some way, shape, or form.
Except me.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I haven't touched anyone.
But you sort of got your fingers in a bunch of different murders there, like after the fact or before the fact. There's so many tangled webs going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, do you ever find yourself, rooting against these characters, or are you still rooting for these characters? I mean, as you mentioned, humanity is so complex with all of them. But are there other times where you just wish, okay, it's time for this person to get caught, or this person to have a comeuppance?
Well, I suppose I do. It's like most of the time I'm just so in need of just humanizing a character. And I think that probably would satisfy a lot of need of people, to just humanize someone. I always use Meryl Streep in Kramer versus Kramer, because that is a character that could have easily been demonized, a woman who abandons her child. But then at the end of the movie, you find out this is someone whose, maternal instinct just didn't kick in. And there was something about that was like, well, you still don't necessarily like her, but you understand her. And those performances are performances that are meaningful to me. So the rooting and all of that for people, I find that a lot of people root for characters that are just that, caricatures and characters. So I try to kind of train myself not to just show up one day and say, can we do something that makes Annalise likable? I mean, what is she going to do? Start making Christmas cookies? I mean, I like the vodka, I really do, Daniel. The vodka is like, it's a good little thing there. I'm used to playing characters who have a lot of aprons,
I don't know if I'd be excited or afraid if Annalise Keating, came to me with like a tray of Christmas cookies. I feel like
she can bake now. She can bake. She can cook.
But like, what are they laced with? Like, or what is she trying to get out of me? It feels like there's some kind of agenda there.
She is very misunderstood.
Now, with the show is has so many plot twists and so many surprises for the audience from week to week. Since the show has grown, developed a fan base over its 2 seasons. Is it any harder to keep secrets now than it was at the beginning?
It's always hard for me to keep secrets. I am the biggest blabbermouth. Pete, I think, gets very nervous when I do interviews. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I don't know either. I really don't. And there's such a sense of survival mode when you're doing television. The schedule is absolutely brutal. It's like as soon as you start filming, it's like you're doing a sprint to the 15 episodes. So yes and no. It's been hard, yeah, but at the same time, no, it hasn't been hard. If I reveal something, I could lose my job. So, I could be fired from Shondaland. So.
Well, I think if you did manage, happen to spell something, and I won't tempt you too much. I think you'd be okay. I think they find a way.
I don't know.
Although that would be a good plot twist, how to get away with Annalise's murder. That would so.
Yeah, really.
And now, the drama has been so intense for all the characters this season, in addition to Annalise, and it really felt to me like the supporting cast this season, specifically the actors who play your students on the show. They really stepped up to the plate in an even bigger way this year. What did you think about how they kept developing and growing into those roles?
I love it. It doesn't surprise me. It's what I signed on for. I said, I definitely want a supporting cast that you need to work them. I grew up in the theater. I have a 30-year career, and theater is about the ensemble. Acting is about the ensemble. You're only as good as your partners. And it just makes the storyline and the narratives richer, you know? So, yeah, I mean, Liza Weil, Jack Falahy, Aja Naomi King, Carla Sosa, Charlie Weber, Alfie, Matt McGorry. I mean, they all stepped up to the plate. Billy Brown, Tom Verica. They're all wonderful actors. I always have a problem when you have wonderful actors and you don't use them. Because I always think about Max Wright. He was a father on Alf. On Alf. He's the greatest classical actor out there. And he played the father, and his head was behind a newspaper for the entire run of that show. And I just always think that's the biggest travesty. I always want to say, this person is really great. If you could just see him, if they just had the opportunity. So it's great that they've been utilized.
Now, for the show, you won, of course, the Emmy last year for Best Drama Actress, and of course that was historic because you were the first Black actress to win that category in the history of the Emmys. Looking back, on that, now it's almost a year later, and we're seeing all these opportunities that seem to be opening up in TV and online shows these days. It feels like there's even just 10 times more scripted shows than there were just a year ago, and they're of such varying types and they bring in the diversity shows like Sense8 and Roots and Confirmation. Does it feel like we're at a tipping point where when it comes to greater inclusiveness in not just TV but entertainment as a whole?
Yeah, I think that we're getting it, and I'm praying that it continues. I'm praying that it's not just a fad. Art has got to reflect culture, and the culture nowadays. I just saw a woman today with, a Caucasian woman with a very crinkly haired brown child. That is our culture now. We are no longer the Brady Bunch. We are no longer My Three Sons even. That's not who we are anymore. We are a melting pot and an amalgamation of different cultures, different socioeconomic groups. TV, it used to be when I was growing up, there were 3 stations: ABC, NBC, CBS. And at midnight, television went off. The Star Spangled Banner played, and that was it. Then the color, lines came on. And now we have hundreds of channels, hundreds. So that's opened up opportunities. So it's a combination of volume, and it's a combination of the need of people out there to want to see their own images, to want to see themselves reflected in art and television. It's like, so I'm hopeful. That's what I am. I'm hopeful.
Earlier this year, there was of course, the Oscars so white controversy. But the interesting thing is that when you think about TV and the Emmys, those were a lot more colorful last year, and of course, thinking about last night's Tony Awards, those were way more colorful than a lot of times what we get at the Oscars. Are you encouraged that the film world will start to sort of catch up to everybody else's lead?
Once again, I'm hopeful. I always say I want to be the change that I want to see. It's why I started a production company, of course, because, listen, it's been me and Whoopi Goldberg. We are the 2 African-American actresses that have gotten the most Oscar nominations in the history of the Oscars. I've been back twice. Whoopi Goldberg has been back twice. That is reflective of the level of narratives and opportunities that are out there for us. You know, Peter O'Toole went back 10 times because he had 10 scripts, 10 narratives that were great enough to bring him back. Now, he never got the win. He got an honorary Oscar, but that's 10 times, 10 narratives that were that great. Now, he's great, but you know that you got to have the script. You got to have the material. That's a long conversation with international box office, you know, Q, tentpole movies, who's in, who's out, who's going to put butts in the seats. Movies, we just got a ways to go in terms of people having the courage and taking risks. You know, I think this year we have a lot Hidden Figures, Birth of a Nation. I'm doing Fences right now. We're just wrapping tomorrow in Pittsburgh, so that's coming out in December. So I think I'm hopeful.
You have done pretty well on the awards scene. And if you're nominated again for an Emmy this year, and I think you definitely will be, do you know what episode you'll submit to Emmy judges from this past season that you thought was your best work?
I have a really hard time remembering names. I do remember There's My Baby. I love that episode where I lost my baby. I thought it showed a vulnerability with Annalise that was unexpected, and I loved her confessional with Alfie's Wes's character. I sort of liked the last episode too with the burial, but I think the other one, what's the name? The one where I'm shot, which is the 9th episode. What Did We Do? So maybe There's My Baby. What Did We Do? Maybe those two I would submit. You know, just throw it up there, see what sticks. Yeah.
As you mentioned, you've been in production on Fences with Denzel Washington, who was also directing, and of course you both won Tony Awards for it when you made that on Broadway a few years ago. Is it vastly different to do that same material on stage versus doing it now on film?
Absolutely. It's just way more intimate. It's way more intimate, which, you know, you always want to be intimate on stage also, but so much you have to do to project. There's so much technique also that weighs into it, whereas the camera picks up everything here, and the emotions and the scenes are huge. I mean, we just did a 7-page scene today. I mean, who does a 7-page scene in movies? And the first day we did a 12-page scene. And another day we did a 30-page scene. Who does that? You know, 3-page monologues that you have to do. 3 pages. And I think Denzel had one that was like 4 or 5 pages. So absolutely, to personalize it and still keep it intimate and to still keep sort of the poetry and, you know, the structure of it. Absolutely, there are some challenges, but absolutely worth it. It has just been the ride of my life, you know, and it's a contradiction to what I said earlier because it is a fabulous narrative. But you see how alive you get when you get that sort of material, you know. Yeah, vastly different.
Yeah, and you and Denzel Washington were co-stars on stage, but now that you're working with him, not just as a co-star, but he is your director. You know, what's that? Has that working dynamic? You know, how has that changed?
It hasn't changed at all. I absolutely 100% trust him. I think he's an actor's director. He absolutely knows what to say to unlock whatever that's going to get you at the heart of the scene, which not a lot of directors have because they're so engaged with the camera. They're so engaged with telling the story visually that they don't know that there's a person and scenes and relationships that they have to nurture and establish. But he understands that, and he knows absolutely what to say to an actor to unlock it. He knows what is not honest. He is courageous enough to say it to you, And yeah, and I think that's because he is a great actor, and he has a process of his own. And once again, it's the ride of my life. And I think he is an extraordinary director, extraordinary actor, and a really great man.
Well, I want to congratulate you again on How to Get Away with Murder and on Fences. We're going to have our fingers crossed for you this fall because as we follow the Oscars, we know how big a deal it is for a black actress to be able to cross that threshold to get an actual third acting nomination. That hasn't happened yet. It's kind of crazy. So fingers crossed, definitely.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.